Since the pandemic, everybody's working from home, everybody lives all over the place. I remember New York used to have a really solid photo community, and we used to get together all the time. It's very rare for that now, so it's really lovely that there are places like this exist, that we can all come together and be part of a community and like-minded folks, and celebrate photography, and it's such a beautiful place to be. And I feel like when we hear everybody, as you said this morning, I had expressed similar things to people throughout the last few weeks. Knowing that I was coming up here, there's something about being away from your life and where you are, and just being here, there's no distraction, so it sort of creates an atmosphere of everyone being very present and here, and I feel like during the course of the week a lot more can happen here than, say, if I was teaching in Brooklyn or something, so thank you for all your good work. Yeah, so I was asked to speak tonight. I wasn't quite sure what. I just thought I would go through some of my work, some of my time in the States. Like Elizabeth was saying, I'm originally from Australia. I was born in the countryside of Australia, but I grew up in a city called Adelaide, Australia, and I started very young in school. I fell in love with photography and started assisting photographers there and shooting there when I was really young. And I was lucky enough to learn from some really incredible people who specialised in still life, so I got to know a lot of technical stuff. And I arrived here at 22 or something, and my ambition was to work with my heroes and some of the best in the world, so I was lucky enough to come here and work with the likes. One of my first jobs was with Marielle and Mark, I don't know if anyone knows, and I was lucky enough to work with some incredible fashion and portrait photographers like Stephen Maisel and Craig McDean and Platon and Norman Jean Roy, and all these really, Arthur Elgort, these really amazing people that yeah, I was very fortunate to be on. I was sort of caught the tail end of the industry before social media, and when people were still buying magazines, and it was quite a trip. And through those experiences, though, I learned that really what made them was that they had a unique voice, you know, like any great artist. And so I had spent a bit of time doing that, and I had to realize what was my voice, what I wanted to say. And so I started working on some personal projects, and I fully always believe in personal projects, even if you are a professional. It keeps you creative, it keeps you inspired. And so I just thought I'd talk through some of those briefly over the years, because they're the things I'm most interested in. So after I was assisting and I wanted to move on here and do that, I took a trip to El Salvador, and I photographed nomadic circus families around the countryside there in rural parts of El Salvador, where you know, there's no entertainment, there's very little that happens, but this is the one cultural thing that happened in a lot of these towns where people got together and they saw, you know, some creativity, and there were these nomadic circus families that would travel together, eat, you know, they got to produce their art together, and they would just travel around the countryside in a combi van and tell everyone that there was a circus in town, and they built the tents, they did their own costumes, and so I did a series and came back, and it really launched. It was beyond my expectations. Is how I got introduced to main media and Elizabeth through winning the Arnold Newman Prize for this work, as well as American Photography and Picture of the Year International and a whole bunch of others. So it was really quite a rewarding project. So I'll just take through some of these. It's pretty. I wasn't sure what to expect. I had heard that, you know, it's not uncommon to be mugged there or whatever, so I took the pretty minimal kit that I tried to make the most out of. And I wanted to treat them like I would, you know, I was used to working on celebrity shoots and whatever here, and I wanted to paint them with the same brush, like light them and celebrate them in a way I would a magazine shoot, but applied to a more documentary subject matter. So, and it's a theme that kind of continues into my work since then. I'm always fascinated by other cultures and other people, and particularly communities of creativity and how people come together through creativity and create joy and connection through that. So that's sort of the theme through most of my personal work. Actually, after it got published quite widely, they invited me back down to El Salvador, and I became an international friend of El Salvador. They put on a big gala dinner, and it was really beautiful. It was really amazing. And I've lived in New York the whole time I've been here, and I absolutely love the city. What I love about it is the whole world is there, and there's every type of culture, every type of art that you can imagine, every type of person. And one thing that strikes me living in New York is that I've lived in several different neighborhoods, that every neighborhood has a personality. I call this project Neighborhood Celebrities, or locally famous, I think I ended up calling it. And the idea is that in every neighborhood, New York's so densely populated that hundreds of thousands of people can live in one community, and there'll always be someone that everybody knows if you live in that neighborhood, but if you're from another neighborhood, you've never heard of them. And so I went throughout the 5 boroughs to find these locally famous characters. And it was a lot of fun. This is a guy in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, who was 86, who's been cutting hair for the last 50 years. His hair salon predates him by another 50 years, so the salon, the barbershop is about over 100 years old, and they had old bottles of tonic that were that old. And he's seen the neighborhood change demographic groups like 3 or 4 times over. New York's always changing. Every 10 years there's a new group of people that come in, and it's a different neighborhood. So, but he was one of the mainstays. This is part of the same series as a guy who opened a bar in a part of Chinatown now that is probably the hippest place in New York, but I think it all started because of this bar. It was, he started this cool bar down there. He's a really amazing guy. If you've been to the East Village, I think it's on First Avenue, you might have seen Pete's Candy Store, or Ray's Candy Store, sorry, Ray's isn't it? Ray's Candy Store. It's this guy, they do like fried Oreos and fried everything really. It's the kind of place people go at like 3 a.m. when they're drunk. But he's a real character. He's actually Iranian, but he had to lie when he first immigrated to the States and said that he was Puerto Rican because there was a lot of racism against him. And he's been a staple of the neighborhood for some 40 years or something in this place. He's almost been kicked out a few times, but the neighbours all raise money for him to keep his place. And I don't know how he survives. He drinks like he eats all the Oreos, but apparently there's a thing in New York called what's it called? An egg cream. It's like a milkshake. He drinks about 5 of those a night and has an ice cream sundae and a bunch of fried Oreos, and somehow he's still going strong and working 15 hours a day at 9 years old. He's a lovely guy in Chinatown who teaches all the kids, all the youth in the neighborhood to lion dance and traditional Chinese festivities. So if you're over there in Chinatown and you see all the lion dances, this is the guy that's behind them. This woman's become quite famous in her own right, actually. She's called the Green Lady, and she was in my old neighborhood of Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn. She just wears green, and her house is green, and everything's green. I asked her why, and she said, it makes people happy. I thought it was a pretty good reason. This guy, unfortunately, has passed away. He was a guy in Astoria, Queens. And he has this neighborhood gym that everybody knows and teaches gymnastics for the last 40, 45 years or something. His son's now run it, I think. This is a conservative artist in Staten Island. He likes painting American flags, and I think now he likes painting American flags with Trump on them. And he's a bit of a character and a local celebrity out there in Staten Island. And, so we hung out in his studio and took this. This is a guy in the Bronx who runs a mosque there, and there is a Jewish population that I think the synagogue got burnt down, or there were fewer people and they couldn't afford it, so he actually opened up his mosque to for Jewish services and Christian services actually, and he sort of brings everyone together. So I think he was a nice peacemaker in the neighborhood. He actually has, have you ever heard the Bloods, the Crips? They're the 2 rival gangs in New York and quite dangerous. He hosts dinners and gets them together to break bread. This guy's actually, you might know him in the industry, people seem to know him. He's been walking the streets of New York for many years, taking people's Polaroids on his old school camera. This guy has a garage in Gowanus, Brooklyn, and he has all this amazing classic car collection that he rents out to movies and stuff like that. This guy was in Staten Island too. He has it's called a Nonna restaurant. He has nonnas from all over the world, and they take it in turns of cooking. So there'll be a Japanese nonna one night, an Italian the other night. It's a great idea for a restaurant. So, Lola Starr, she's a bit of a fixture in Coney Island. This poor woman passed away, but she was making homemade pasta in Soho at a store there for many, many years, and it's incredible if you're ever in the neighbourhood. Refratters. This guy is known in NYU for his work there, just standing over Washington Square Park there. And this guy is a professional clown that you'll see, well, you used to see in Union Square all the time. I'm not sure what happens there. And she was out in Bensonhurst, Queens. Her and her father, who's on the side there, had this ice cream truck for the last 75 years, and I drove around with her, and everybody knows her. This guy used to live, well, he's a homeless guy that used to be around the corner from me. He actually is in a homeless shelter in Manhattan. He'd come out to Brooklyn every day because we thought his role in life was to take care of the stray cats and birds out there. He certainly did a good job of it. Elizabeth mentioned I went to Thailand. A lot of, actually no, this is just a selection of, I do advertising work and editorial work professionally, but these are my personal projects, and they've become more and more reportagey and documentary over the years, and nowadays I actually just go out with one camera and one lens, and I really love creating what I can with very little, and I think it sort of started here. This was a transgender cabaret in Thailand that I documented a little while ago, and then I went to Mexico City, and there's a big punk scene there, so I was documenting the punk scene in Mexico City. There's a couple of pictures from that. In 2020, the protests in New York, there was very little going on, and there were a lot of people in the streets, so I went out and photographed what was a historic event, actually, one of the largest protests in history. And these are I just, ever since the pandemic, have just been kind of on the street in New York and taking my camera and documenting life in New York. This is the West Indian Day Parade in Brooklyn, and this was Pride. People were dancing in that fountain, Washington Square Park, which is why they're all wet. And this is, more recently, I've been documenting the Kiki ballroom scene the last few years. It started out with a photo series and it's turned into a film. And it sort of set me off I've been doing these little visual, I call them meditations around New York. It's just exploring the life and humanity. And here's a little one from Coney Island. I don't know if you guys have seen the Mermaid Day Parade in Coney Island. It's where every 1st of January people jump in the cold water to welcome in the new year. It's a lot of fun. It's just a tradition, a crazy tradition that's been happening in New York since I've been there. I don't know how it started, but this is my little meditation on it.
I've never really believed in New Year's resolutions, but I always love the new year. It gives me the feeling I used to have on the first day of school. Every piece of lined notebook paper pristine
Okay, so apparently I have 5 minutes left. Would you like to see another?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Chinese New Year. You know, the Chinese New Year celebrations on the theme of New Year's.
That was.
That's a short one. But I was in Australia last year, and I don't know if anyone's ever seen Australian rules football. It's kind of like our own version of football that's not played anywhere else in the world. Anyway, growing up, I followed a team called Glenelg, which was my local football team. And anyway, this is them.
Well, thank you, Stephen. This has been amazing. I'm sure that everybody's going to want to keep having conversations with you, and I just thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.
After that amazing presentation, I'm now going to take it in some dark places. So I directed a one-season series. It was just two directors, the fabulous Ernest Dickerson, who I call my sensei, who was Spike Lee's cinematographer and then became a director. And I alternated on this show called Interrogation. And there's this very specific and odd thing that happened in the show where I had a sequence, two scenes that were right after each other that we shot over 2 days, very separated by the schedule because film schedules are notoriously wacky, where I had to use a intimacy coordinator and a stunt coordinator. So I'll play the scene in all its cheerfulness, and then I'll turn the sound down and we play it again and talk a little bit about how we achieved what we achieved. So the trick when you get asked to direct a sequence like this is you have to, you respond to it on the page. It's just that violent on the page and just that hard to stomach on the page, and then it's your job to make it as sound-inducing as it is in the room, and then do that while all the time letting the cast never feel that beyond what they want to experience. So you go, and it's been a long-standing practice using a stunt coordinator on a film set, and we'll go back through these scenes with the sound off, and I'll explain all the things that we're doing to make that scene safe and how that team, the amazing cast, and the stunt team work together. But now there's this other thing that's come up in the last, well, I mean, this is 5 years ago, and it was maybe 2 years old by then, which is an intimacy coordinator, which is a really fantastic thing that I'm in full support of. In part because as the director, I was tasked with being involved in a lot of emails where the writers can kind of say what they want in the script, but I have to very explicitly explain to everyone involved what we're expecting the actors to do. And then with the intimacy coordinator, she came on the set and we talked about ways to, what we're gonna fake and and how I was planning on covering it and shooting the whole scene. And there's also a couple visual sleight of hand tricks going on in the background of that whole opening sequence. All right, so it all starts with the cast, and it's great to have Peter here, and a face everyone's recognized, but then Morgan, the woman playing the young woman in the scene, she was relatively new, and in the casting process, it was the first time I was involved heavily in casting. A lot of times in television, you get the cast that's been the showrunners. The writers are really in charge in television. And as a director, you're there to get the writers what they want. But this show was the first season, and it was 2 showrunners, one of whom I had just met, and another who I'd worked with, John Mankiewicz of the Mankiewicz film family. And they wanted my input on casting decisions, and so they sent me several tapes to watch, and I fell in love with Morgan based on the description they had of that character in the show. And then they had all picked like a California Blondes to be the lead, and I was shooting another show for another director I really admire, and I said, hey, this is happening, what do I do? And he said, you just go like this. I was like, I can't, so I didn't. and I made the case for Morgan because it was all based on one line in the script, which is that she's supposed to seem like a mirror image to that Kyle character, the boyfriend character. And that I could believe her listening to heavy metal and hanging out with this guy and feeling like she found a kindred spirit until it all starts going south. And they're like, oh, okay, let's cast her. And then she was a freaking rock star. So in just this sequence, I often ask, depending on who's the more lead character in the show, if they want to go first or second. But we did one read through, and Peter knew I was going to ask him. I'm like, I think we should shoot her first. He's like, absolutely, you should shoot her first. And then when we shot his coverage, she gave just as strong performances you see in her coverage to him. So those little shots of him just reacting in the middle of the fight scene are really earnestly responding to her telling the story. And when we finished shooting his coverage, I heard him say to her, like, this is absolutely the best performance I've ever been given for my side of the scene, because this scene we did shoot 2 sizes towards him and 2 sizes towards her. So he was really thankful that she gave him everything she had. She was crying and the camera wasn't even on her, which is a real selfless thing for an actor to do. So that's me cheering on Morgan. So the initial thought I had was that we would see her getting picked up by the car, but then we do one slow dolly in to them on the bed, but the room that's in the fight is too small to do that. So what we did is we took the back wall of the room out, put the bed in front of it, and laid like 20 feet of track. So this is a longer lens, but I mean the camera's maybe 30 feet away here, and we're slowly dollying in, and this is all set up somewhere else. And then we had to shoot the fight on the same day. These poor actors. And so the art department quickly put that wall back in the set and the bed and everything. It was easy to put in because the wall was out. And then we shot the fight sequence. So for this, it's different states of undress. And then in the edit room, they decided to cut it up. So we didn't do this thing of just continually pushing in. Now here was a really strange part, because when we got to this scene here, this very moment here, Morgan is like, oh, I can just take my top off. And then the intimacy coordinator and I look at each other, I was like, no, that's okay. It's better if you don't. And she insisted, and I was like, no, it's really better if you don't. I don't want people to be distracted by anything too purient about the whole thing. And so she acquiesced, and the intimacy coordinator are walking back, and she's like, oh, thank you, because that would have been a freaking nightmare. But that's what the intimacy coordinator is there to do, because sometimes you see actors being like, no, I can do that stuff. And you're like, you're not gonna. You don't have to, and you're not gonna. Like, please put your, macho chip or whatever has got you thinking you should do this away. We've completely planned it out so you're safe. And this was a similar thing, but in regards to intimacy. And I thought that was just a really interesting thing to be around, to see those two things happening. Kyle, playing the boyfriend, has been in a bunch of action movies and things like that. So to him, this was like an action sequence. And he's got the easier part. He just has to act worse and worse. And then there's this moment, another odd thing as a director of television is I don't get the final cut. So there is a version where this look that she has is more of a dead match to him, to Peter, and the camera doesn't pan. So I did a take where we just held there so you would feel like they're looking at each other through the telling of the story, and they just picked that other take. Win some, you lose some. And then the way she delivered that it only happened once line is why I always call this sequence that. If I'd known who I was following, I would have picked something nicer. And then the stunt itself, there's the stunt team comes up with the doubles with some base action, and then before we even got to the shoot day, we took the cast and put them through it, and then they worked out a couple little changes of things that they felt would work. And then the trick, the thing you're doing is, at least the way I like to do a good stunt scene like this, is you use the same shots for the stunt performer as you use for the actors, so that you don't get the sense that there's a special shot to hide the stunt performer. So this shot, where we can see that it's Morgan's face, and then this push, that's really Kyle, and then he is missing her by a mile there, but we got oddly lucky in that she snapped her head so hard, she spun her glasses off, and they did hit the camera. And as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, we're moving on. Like, that, you can't, that's amazing. And then, this is the only shot that's specific and that's that him looking directly at the camera, that he really does feel sorry, and it doesn't freaking matter because he loses it anyway. And then this, that's her but so we did a toss with her to a giant pad. So she flies out of frame and lands on a 6-inch pad. And then we do the same exact shot with the stunt coordinator, or with the stunt woman, and as Kyle throws the stunt woman, we whip the camera over, and in the whip of both of them, we hide that cut between the two people. So that looks like one shot, there's a cut in there, because that's the stunt person. And then, those of you who are filmmakers know we have to cross a line here to go inside the room, but it's pretty simple because you're going through a door and everyone knows where you are, and then there's these cuts to this. The door has balsa wood that gets put on the inside and then gets replaced to make the kicking in look realistic, but he doesn't have to really put full force into the kick. The wall there, this wall, has been replaced with foam painted to look like the wall, so that the actor can really go against it, and she's wearing a back pad, like a thin BMX motocross pad. And then this was glass, but it's been replaced with Pyrex, so not Pyrex, but heavy duty plastic. So it can be her. And then the weird thing is, this is the shot that we did the most takes of. The AD was ready to kill me, because I needed his hand to really sweep across the lens, because the cut is so odd to this. And I'm having to just imagine this cut in my head as I'm planning out the shot list and shooting it. And it was one of those things where, we wanted to keep the bed in there. Usually in every set, I'll keep the sensor of the camera inside the room, so if a tight room, you feel tight, you have to use wide lenses to shoot it. And so, except for that scene where we had the wall completely pulled apart, we're really tight in there. We might have had a half-size bed. That's a trick I do sometimes. It's like if it's a queen, you get like and you can just do it with like a plank of wood and some apple boxes, so that you get the sense of the furniture, but that probably is still a real mattress because they're flying around so close to it. And then the most horrible part of the whole thing, I thought that to the camera was going to be the way to go, but it was so disturbing when we shot it that we did versions off to the sides, and then they ended up using this version to get out of the scene.
Wow.
Yeah, and at the whole time, you're making sure that you can do everything within a 12-hour shoot day, and you're never rushing it because it's a stunt and everyone has to be safe. And the only way you do it is tons and tons of planning. So I can show you what the shot lists were for those days. Let's see here.
So the stunt people on call for when they're needed?
Yeah, they're hired for the job, and then sometimes everything's scheduled, so sometimes they might not be around for a little while and even go off and do another job and then come back to you based on your schedule. So this is a crew call. This is a general crew call. This is for a different scene, but this is, anyone who hasn't seen the call sheet, this is how we organize everything we're going to do. And every description is a scene, and then how long the scene is in script pages, and we break them into eighths, and you never make them, a half or a quarter. And then you can see like, oh, we got a big day coming up at the jail because there's a ton of scenes we have to do. This is the shot list. So this first scene is the intimacy coordinator scene, and then this is all the stunt stuff. And sometimes I will do overheads, sometimes I'll have, there's a program that'll let you mimic what the frames are called Artemis, and I'll do that. But in this instance, we had worked it out with the stunt team, and I think we even the Bosch, if you know that show, happens the same way this show happened in the schedule it was, is it's remarkably crazily planned out. Bosch shot most of their episodes in 8 days, and we often have 2 or 3 locations a day all over Los Angeles. And the only way it works is if it's got this level of planning. But it then comes back after that kick, and she's still at the house eating the steak he's making for her. Yeah, it's really cheerful stuff. It's based on a true crime. Let's see, and then this is the day of shots where we also shot that beginning part. So the cast doesn't even have a great amount of time to, like, this is all the other stuff we shot before we even get to the interview, and there's stuff preceding the interview and then during the interview. And then when we were done, there was another scene afterwards. But very specific things about what he's going to do with his eye lines, things like that, clean, close eye line. I can show you one silly thing that is a trick, unless there's a question. All right, this is a scene from Bosch.
There you go, Cady.
Yay.
This is from the original show. It's an untimed daily, and this is a master shot. So that's why it's magenta. These aren't timed.
Tony next.
So the trick is that there's 2 other cameras shooting at the same time, even though that's going everywhere. So The camera on the bottom left is our main character Bosch's point of view from a car, and the camera on the upper right is just a wide to show how steep the hill is. And there were some plants in this line up here when we tech scouted, and I was like, oh, we can add more plants, and that'll hide the like 5 people involved in making this shot in the upper left from the other cameras. And then the fun part on top is those are stunt people running down the hill, not the cast. So we did what's called the Texas switch. So if we go back to this shot, you'll see where we swapped out our stunt people for these cast members.
Coming next.
Stunt person. Stunt person. Really tight to lens, like, and the trick is it has to happen so fast that when you pan to him down, running down the hill, the distance makes sense. And then that one where we swap out J. Edgar is really tight, like he is right behind the Steadicam. Because the Steadicam is panning, he can't be to the right of the Steadicam because it's panning through where he's going to go. And then fans of the show will know that this shot got cut up. Yeah, it's sad. But then the other fun thing is, this is take 1 of 1. So as the director, I was in a van, this time I was away so I could see everything in the blazing sun, and I saw this take, and I was so ecstatic. I slid open the door to the van. I was like, "Great, God, moving on!" And everyone on the set's like, "What?" And the AD in the trailer was like, "You sure you don't want to know?" And I'm like, "No, moving on." We had a whole other stunt sequence, which just showing you that stunt sequence would take me over the time. That we spent like a day, this whole day, and another half of a day because we had another scene to do here, and then we had to do a company move on the second day. We had this crazy foot chase that also had Bosch driving around in his car, and the shot list would make you like get sick. So when this worked, I was like, next, and nothing makes the stunt team happier, nothing makes the crew happier. Everyone was like, oh, well, here we go. And that's something that from being a DP and working with directors who are like, maybe it could be better. It's like, there's nothing worse than hearing a director yell over the wall like, that was great, let's do it again. And not hear them give any changes or notes. And you're like, oh, for the love of God, if it was that great, then we should be moving on. And if it wasn't, I get it. There is a world of the actors relax a little when they feel it's a free take, and then you do get cool things. But the combination of yelling it over the wall, it's a little too much for me.